during Chinese New Year when we were doing Lo Hei, and one random aunt that I see like once a year came up to me and she was like lifting up the thing and she was like, Dean's List, Dean's List. I was like, oh my god, okay, not me.
Who am I as an individual? I am not Ian, the law student. I'm Ian, the brother, the friend, the child of God, the son who loves his parents. Yeah.
Hello. Okay, I'm Banyan, I'm a year 2.
Hi, I'm Tricia, I'm a year 3 law student.
Hello, I'm Ben in year 4.
I am Ian, I'm in year 4 too.
Have you ever felt inferior or experienced imposter syndrome in law school? If so, how did that make you feel?
Make you bad. Okay, no. I think in the 3 years I've been in law school, I probably have like ebbs and flow of feeling that imposter syndrome. I think the hardest hit for me was in year 1, sem 2. So like a good half a year into law school, like was when I started feeling it because I was hearing a lot of external people, like my seniors, professors, even like my peers telling me like, you need to accomplish this in order to do this. Or even if it didn't came from other people, it felt like the expectation was there for me because I had a pre-existing notion that I was like really good in school and I had a lot of like things going for me. But then the moment I started law school and I felt like my results weren't showing, I wasn't doing the things I wanted to do or the things I like expected myself to do before I started uni, that was when I started to crash out and feel like a sense of inferiority. I think the main feeling that I felt was a lot of like isolation. Especially like when like, year 2 started, and that's when like a lot of things started hitting me very hard, like going on exchange, doing internships, like maintaining a good GPA, wanting to not waste like my uni experience. Like there were a lot of like pressures coming in, and like it just kept building on building, and I felt like I was doubting myself a lot, and that doubt manifested into like again like doing worse, or like wanting to affirm the feeling of going worse because like I felt so bad about myself. So it was like a lot of like isolation, a lot of loneliness, and like that was really like my 2 kryptonites in my first 2 years of law school. How about you?
Actually, okay, I think it's really interesting that you talked about like feeling isolated. Okay, I think my experience with that is slightly different in the sense that, okay, so I think in year 1 especially, I genuinely did feel this like very heavy, okay, not very heavy, but somewhat heavy sense of like inferiority because I was seeing the people around me like be really on the ball and like really on top of things, and I came in and I don't know, maybe I was just like very exhausted, very burnt out from like life in general. But I think I started law school with this like lack of focus, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and like law wasn't really what I wanted to study, and it was just like a huge mess. And then you go into exams and you come out again not really doing well, and it's quite jarring. I mean, I know, like for example, like the profs will always talk about how, oh, you're coming in as like the top scorers of whatever, and it's okay, or like you will find that some of you will like fall to the bottom of your cohort or whatever nonsense, and it's genuinely quite true. But I think I kind of didn't expect it to affect me that much, and it was a bit of a shock when like I got back my first like actual midterm paper, and like my friends were all like, oh, how do you do? I got like an A-, I got like a B+, and I was there with my F that turned into a C+. Yeah, so it was like a bit like whoa. And I think the isolation that I felt was slightly different in the sense that a lot of my friends who I would generally be talking about these things to were already like in year 3 in uni, and they had already like gone through the process of like getting adjusted to their new school life and finding their place, both like mentally, physically, in whatever sense of the word. And I think it just felt very difficult for me to talk about this problem to them because it just felt so inconsequential. Like I felt like if I bring it up to them, like they've already been through it. It feels like they won't really be able to like relate to how I'm feeling now because they have already crossed that hurdle, right? And I guess I felt a little bit isolated in that way. And another thing is also that I think this sense of inferiority is kind of reinforced by a lot of external pressures. Like something that really stuck with me was during Chinese New Year when we were doing lo hei, and one random aunt that I see like once a year came up to me and she was like lifting up the thing and she was like Dean's List, Dean's List. I was like, oh my god, okay, not me. I mean,
Was she watching it for herself?
no, for me.
Oh.
Like at that point, or like someone was over, the grades were like,
There,
you know,
yeah.
and I was still trying to come to terms with how I was doing academically, and like Dean's List. Yeah. So I guess in a sense, like the whole experience just really made me lose or like doubt who I was as a person and my place and sort of my purpose in life because yeah, like I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was doing badly at the thing that I ended up doing and I kind of like didn't really have a lot of support. Yeah.
So I think I've definitely felt imposter syndrome in law school. I think especially in my first 2 years, year 1 and 2. I remember especially in year 2 was especially hard. My experience of it was, you know, facing bad grade after bad grade, and I think coming to experience, you know, like what does losing my sense of self-worth, I think. And I remember at one point I was really spiraling, you know, thinking that okay, I'm not good at studying law, I'm not good at moving, you know, then where do I, you know, what does my where do I find my worth, you know? So I think that was especially bad. Yeah, I think that's what comes to mind.
Thanks, Ben. Well, for me, I think I have felt inferior the minute I stepped into law school. I think coming to law school was not within the realm of my imagination. I worked hard for my A levels, but I wasn't expecting to be here. So this was a pleasant surprise, but at the same time, I think it was quite intimidating. You know, we have a bulk of people in law school coming from elite schools. And I already felt inferior in that sense, but I think that feeling of inferiority has spiked when school started proper, especially in year 1. I distinctly remember myself being in classes, feeling like I wasn't able to match the speed of my peers, the way they understood things, the way they could express and articulate their thoughts. And it was quite present during LARC. Because it was one of those mods where you would really just have to vocalize your thoughts, and I felt like I couldn't do it as eloquently. I wasn't as sharp. I didn't have that acumen to dissect cases the way they could, and this took a toll on me. I think I felt insecure, and I felt alone because I became very paranoid and very cautious and hyper aware about how people were viewing me, and in a way, I kept this feeling of insecurity close to my heart and to myself, fearing that they would think less of me and the ramifications that would come after that, like not wanting to work with me in group work, or maybe just thinking that I'm not as smart and I don't deserve to be in law school. Yeah, so I think these were the thoughts that clouded my mind. Yeah.
So how did you deal with these feelings of inferiority or imposter syndrome, and were these strategies helpful for you?
Right, I think one of the major ways I dealt with this was to really dig deep, be introspective, and think about what I am defined by, or what is the very basis of my self-worth. And I think for at least me and for Ben, we are both religious fellas, and for us, I guess religion is a big thing. It beckons us to think of, I think, humans as dignified individuals that is not dependent on what they can do, but who they are through the eyes of what believed to be the way God views us. So I think that has really been the core or scaffold for the way I view myself. And I think this also extends to the other identities that I have, which would be a son, a brother, a dear friend. And I think these things are not things that I merited per se. I didn't work for, all these relationships. I mean, relationships do take work, but I didn't work for it per se. I didn't merit it. And I think that's the best way to view myself, beyond the spheres of what I can or cannot do, beyond my academics, beyond my grades. So I think that's very much the primary way I dealt with it. Like, who am I as an individual? I am not Ian, the law student. I'm Ian, the brother, the friend, the child of God, the son who loves his parents. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally relate with that. I think faith was such a important part of coping with these struggles in law school. I think, like I was sharing just now about how that imposter syndrome felt like. It's like struggling with my sense of self-worth. And I feel like through that experience, it made me really come to understand from a faith perspective what it means to base my worth in God alone. And I think that became my anchor through law school and even as a person right now. So I think faith has definitely been a big part of it. I would say acknowledging my struggles was also a big thing to recognize that yes, I'm struggling with this, and that's okay. And also to recognize that we're probably not the only ones who struggle with this. I'm sure everyone faces the same struggles as well. I think also for me what helped was speaking to a career counselor, because I remember like in year 1 and 2, I always felt like I'm doing so badly, faced with just the results, and I think I lacked that perspective, right, about where I really stand, as a student in the law school. And so a career counselor gave me a better perspective that okay, you're not doing that badly, and that really helped me, also to help me and also to have more confidence in myself as a student. And I felt like maybe one last thing that really helped me to cope with it is having the wider perspective that okay, I think it's true that I am doing a really difficult course with a lot of people who are just really smart. So of course I'm gonna struggle. Of course I'm gonna feel that other people are so much better than me. Yeah. So I think just having all these perspectives also really helped.
That's right. I think on your last point, I think we should be also, or at least I try to be very cautious about the way I look at other people, the way I judge them, because in a very subconscious way, I'm using the same yardsticks to judge myself. So if I'm going to look at an individual based on his grades, his accolades, then it's inevitable that I would feel bad about myself when I don't meet the same standards. But I also think that we often suffer in our imagination more than we do in reality. That's from Seneca. But I
Who is that?
he's a Stoic philosopher. I think. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But I think it's true because let's face it. How often do we look at someone, cast judgment, and then we move on with our lives? But yet we, in a way, self-victimize and think that they are holding on to these thoughts and grudges and judgment against us. Yeah. So I think having a good sense of what, or rather how we relate to people is important also in the way we view ourselves.
I think for me, I'll probably rely on my friends and like the people around me that like cared about me. But I think there were times where I would do a lot of self-sabotaging behavior to affirm the belief that I was inferior, because I wanted to like victimize myself to like I guess in a sense like not have to deal with the problem, and or at least like I felt that the solution to my problem was to study more or to like study better. But then like when that materialized and that it didn't really help me, then I felt like there was more reason for me not to affirm myself. So sometimes like looking to your friends and looking to your support systems might not be the most in my experience was not the most effective for me when like it got really, really bad. So like I could fall back on things like doing things that I felt I was proud of, like whether it be like exercising or just like taking a walk, like bringing myself out of the environment that made me feel that way. So like if I had to force myself, would like just like take a 10-minute walk, like go to nature or like go to the beach or something, like just like find something that wasn't connected to law school. Yeah. And like that was very helpful for me.
Right. Okay. I agree. I think at a certain, it's very easy to fall into this sort of position where you kind of just like are wallowing in self pity, and you feel like, oh, like I can't really do anything about my situation, and the people around me are just like, they just have their life in control, and they know what they're doing, and like they just have everything figured out, and it's very easy to fall into that trap of like, well, I can't do anything about it, so
Yeah.
wah. But like, yeah, I think like what you said, taking small steps to like kind of break out of that cycle really helped me. Like in instances where I feel that sort of like sense of inferiority, I would kind of like detach myself from the situation, either physically or mentally or in whatever sense. But I think what really helped me get out of that sort of like rut was to sort of internalize the way that I was feeling and why I was feeling that way. So, for instance, like I felt like I was really, really falling behind in terms of academics, and I kind of didn't really understand why until I took a step back and realized that it's because I am just not that interested in what I was doing, which kind of helped me like start to come to terms with the position that I was in. And I think it works a lot better as a long-term solution, because in order to like tackle or like address whatever feelings of inferiority I had, I kind of had to understand why I was feeling inferior in the first place.
It's a lot of like
Right.
self-reflection.
Exactly,
Knowing
right.
who you are.
Like it has to go, I think at a certain point it has to go beyond very like small, not exactly surface level, but the more preliminary steps that you take to feel better about yourself. It has to go beyond that. And you kind of have to look inward and like really challenge yourself to figure out what's going on with yourself internally, like emotionally, spiritually, in whatever sense. And I think it was only when that happened, or like when I allowed myself to be vulnerable with myself, if that makes sense. It was only when that happened that I was able to start like processing and start coming to terms with like why I was feeling that way. And then from there I could kind of see like what steps I could take to make myself feel better in the long run. Yeah.
Challenge your assumption of yourself, guys. How have you grown from this experience?
I think in general, the whole process of experiencing, I think for me it was a very, very quick process of like falling into this like pitfall and then dragging myself out of it. I think it happened very quickly for me. So it was a bit of a roller coaster. But I think I came out of it feeling a lot more self-assured. I think the people in my life who know me will say that I am generally quite a self-assured person, and me now don't really experience self-doubt to like a huge extent. I mean, you get like small instances where I'm like, am I doing this right? Filming this, for example. But I think I've come out of it feeling a lot more self-assured, and like I feel like I sort of know what direction I'm heading in. I know who I am as a person a lot better. And it's also like taught me how to challenge myself internally. Especially, I mean, as you go through life, this is not the only instance where you're going to like doubt yourself or feel some sort of way about whatever is happening in your life, right? And I think in general has just given me a lot more perspective, and it's taught me that like, hey, actually, I am capable of overcoming it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think it's the same. I think even if you, I mean, for me, I haven't really found my pathway yet, but I think it's normal. I think it's being familiar or like familiarizing yourself with the process of getting to know yourself and of like growing from the discomfort, or at the very least, you're not growing, you understand a bit more about what makes you feel uncomfortable and what is your strengths. Because even if you do find your weaknesses, and which may be law school, or it may be a sport, or it may be something that is non-academic, you will also eventually find your strengths. And in going through adversity, wait, this sounds so inspirational, but like genuinely, like if you go through something bad and you get to the other end of it, that in and of itself is a strength that you can now recognize in yourself in retrospect. So like, no matter what, even if the experience is bad, you grow from it. But even if you feel like, oh, I don't really want to go through that again, or I can't go through it again, like at least there's evidence now that you have and you will be able to in the future. So like that creates like a lot of tenacity in you. So I think that's quite universal. I think that's quite universal. Even if you don't really know what you want to do yet, I think it's a lie if people can say like, oh, I confirm know what I want to do, or at the very least like, I don't know what I want for lunch, and it's like dinner.
So grounding and inspirational.
So yeah.
I think for me, I have grown in terms of being able to step into my own shoes a bit more boldly, my own personhood. So who am I really out of the situations where of work, of academics, trying to figure out the things I stand for, the things I value in life, and realizing that all these things, I guess, are ground me more as a person than my work and my academics. Yeah, so I think that's really what I grew.
Yeah, I think along the same lines, like, and as I shared earlier, I felt like the whole experience, the journey in law school really helped me to realize where my worth really lies, to find my real sense of worth that's not in my work and what I can achieve or what I can do. For me, from a spiritual point of view, it was finding my worth, finding out what it means to base my worth in Christ alone. But I think really it's about learning where my worth really comes from. I think another way that I grew from it is being able to be more resilient. I think to be able to face these things, be able to deal with these emotions better. I think a big thing was learning not to compare myself with others, but really just do my best in my work, and really just do my best and not be so concerned about what I can achieve or what the fruit of that is. I think probably it's also growing in my relationship with God. I think through all these struggles really helped me spiritually in that sense, to grow closer to God. Yeah.
I think on that point, it is so easy to fall into the echo chamber in law school, with all talk about grades, TCs and exams, or your next internship. But it is also important to have that, as law school being a training ground before we enter the workforce proper, to sort of navigate our work-life balance, because otherwise we'll just be consumed by it. So sort of creeps into the whole self-worth thing. Who are you? What is your self-worth apart from being a law student? That's an important question that I think we asked ourselves and that we've grown after contemplating about it.
Yeah, and I totally get it. I feel like maybe a big problem is that a lot of us, tend to compare, our grades with one another. I know a lot of my peers who do that. Personally, I don't. But I feel like that's also what contributes to the problem, comparing yourself with others all the time and not having that good perspective of where you really stand. Because maybe, you're mixing with all the people who are doing really well. And so in comparison, you're going to feel really bad about yourself. So I felt like, for me, it's a lot of not comparing myself with others, but really just focusing on myself and how I can do better, how I can improve, and just do my best in my own day and hours.
Hey Tricia, so what advice would you give to someone like experiencing a sense of inferiority or going through something similar?
I mean, first of all, I think it depends on your context. Like, if you're a law student, it's okay. You'll get through it. You'll get through it. And it's very natural. Like, it is very, very natural. I mean, even if it's your first time going through law school, it's your first time going through your 20s or your 30s or this period of your life. So it's gonna be natural for you to not know who you are and then realize what's important for you. And other than that, I think like if you can't ground yourself mentally, find something to ground you externally. Like make a cup of coffee or like go for a walk or like find a safe space. Like whether it be like, I don't know, next to your neighborhood cat, something like that. Like something small that doesn't make your world feel so big. And sometimes it can be very isolating in your head. So like finding something else that's outside of your head or like talking to someone that's what you want to do or you like to do or like cooking or like doing something that makes you feel good about yourself. That's like a good external thing that you can do instead of just like using this all the time. Yeah.
I think for me, I think my advice is sort of like you can split it into like 3 parts. I think firstly my advice is to sort of tell yourself that it's okay to be in whatever position that you are in or to be feeling whatever things that you are feeling, because I mean at the end of the day we are all human and sometimes you genuinely just cannot control the circumstances that you're in or how you're feeling. What is important is to focus on the things that in your life that you can control and start working from there. And I think my second and third pieces of advice kind of flow from that, in the sense that in terms of what you can control, like make use of the resources that are available to you. Like if you need to for example, go for counseling and you don't know what resources are available to you, you can always like ask around, or you can use like uni resources like UHC or like student wellness, whatever, all of those things. Like really, really make use of the resources that you have.
Yeah.
And like an extension from that is that you should learn to be comfortable with challenging yourself and confronting yourself internally, whether you need someone else to help you do that or whether you are capable of doing that yourself. I think it's very important to take time to reflect on how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, how you can move forward, and kind of just take stock. And then that way you can kind of mount an attack on whatever shitty situation you're going through.
Yeah. Learn to learn yourself.
Learn to learn myself. Learn to love yourself.
Period.